Hidden food fights, silent inflammation daily. A powerful truth is sitting right inside your kitchen, hidden in plain sight, something most people completely overlook while spending money on expensive supplements and treatments. What if the real key to fighting some of the most dangerous diseases in the world was not locked inside a laboratory or a prescription bottle, but already sitting in your refrigerator or pantry? This idea is not speculation, and it is not based on wellness trends. It comes from serious scientific research that is slowly changing how we understand disease itself. One of the biggest discoveries in modern health science is that chronic inflammation is not just a small internal issue, it is one of the main forces behind many life-threatening conditions. This includes heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and even cancer. The most alarming part is that this inflammation often develops silently. You may feel completely normal, while inside your body, a destructive process is already active at the cellular level. It does not cause immediate pain or clear warning signs, which is why it is often ignored until it becomes serious. To understand this better, think about what happens when you get a small cut. The area becomes red, warm, and slightly swollen. That is your immune system doing its job correctly. It sends protective cells and signals to repair the damage, and after healing, everything returns to normal. This is called acute inflammation, and it is essential for survival. It starts quickly, works efficiently, and then shuts off once the problem is solved. The real danger begins when this system never fully turns off. Instead of a short-term response, inflammation becomes long-lasting and low-level. This condition is known as chronic inflammation. Unlike the helpful version, this one does not repair anything. It slowly damages tissues, weakens organs, and disturbs normal cellular function over time. It can remain unnoticed for years while quietly affecting the entire body. What makes this even more concerning is how widespread the impact can be. Research has shown that chronic inflammation is deeply connected to the development and progression of serious diseases, including different types of cancer. It does not simply exist alongside disease, it actively contributes to how disease grows and spreads. It creates an internal environment where damaged cells survive more easily and healthy defense systems become less effective. Even more importantly, this condition is not rare. It is linked to millions of deaths every year across the world. Many people are living with it without any awareness because it does not always produce immediate symptoms. Instead, it builds slowly through everyday habits and environmental factors, shaping long-term health in ways most people never realize. The sources of this hidden inflammation are often found in modern lifestyle patterns. Highly processed foods, excess sugar, lack of movement, poor sleep, constant stress, and environmental exposure all play a role. Over time, these factors disrupt the balance inside the body, especially in systems that control immunity and repair. Even the digestive system becomes involved, influencing how the entire body responds to stress and damage. This means the problem is not caused by one single factor, but by a combination of daily choices that gradually shift the body into a constant state of internal stress. Understanding this is the first step toward changing it, because once you see how inflammation works, you begin to see how closely it is connected to everything you eat and do every day. When we look deeper into this hidden process, something even more important becomes clear: the body is not randomly turning against itself. Chronic inflammation is actually being fueled by very specific triggers that are part of modern daily life. These triggers are so common that most people never question them, yet they quietly keep the internal stress system switched on all the time. One of the strongest drivers is the modern diet, especially foods that are heavily processed. These foods are often loaded with refined sugars, unhealthy fats, and chemical additives that the body struggles to recognize and handle properly. When you consume high amounts of sugar, for example, your body responds by releasing insulin to manage blood sugar levels. But this process does not stop there. It also activates internal signaling molecules that promote inflammation throughout the body. Over time, repeated exposure keeps these signals constantly active. At the same time, stress plays a major role. When the body is under pressure for long periods, it produces stress hormones that are designed for short bursts of survival response. But in modern life, stress rarely disappears quickly. It becomes ongoing, which means these hormones remain elevated and continue to influence immune activity. This keeps the body in a state of alert, even when there is no real physical danger. Another major factor is poor sleep. Sleep is not just rest, it is a critical repair process where the body resets immune balance and clears out harmful byproducts from the brain and tissues. When sleep is disrupted or shortened regularly, this repair system becomes incomplete. As a result, inflammatory activity builds up gradually, creating internal imbalance. Physical inactivity also contributes significantly. The human body is designed for movement, and regular activity helps regulate immune function, circulation, and metabolic health. When movement is limited for long periods, these systems become less efficient, which adds to inflammatory stress. Combined with environmental toxins and long-term antibiotic use that affects gut bacteria, the body's natural defense system becomes even more unstable. The gut itself plays a far greater role than most people realize. Inside the digestive system lives a complex community of microorganisms that help regulate immunity and inflammation. When this balance is disrupted, the gut lining can become weakened, allowing unwanted particles to enter the bloodstream. The immune system reacts strongly to these particles, triggering inflammation that should not normally occur. When this condition continues, it creates a cycle where inflammation feeds itself. This is how chronic inflammation becomes a long-term internal condition rather than a short-term response. It is not caused by one single mistake, but by repeated exposure to multiple stress factors that slowly shift the body into a constant defensive state. And once this state becomes normal, it starts influencing how cells behave, how tissues repair, and how the immune system responds to threats. Understanding these triggers is important because it shows that inflammation is not random or uncontrollable. It is closely linked to lifestyle patterns that can be adjusted. And this is where the next part becomes even more important, because certain natural foods have the ability to directly interfere with this process and help restore balance inside the body. When we move from the problem to the solution, something surprising appears. The body already has built-in systems designed to control inflammation and protect itself from long-term damage. The issue is not that these systems are missing, but that they often become underactive due to poor lifestyle patterns and continuous internal stress. This is where certain natural foods begin to play a powerful role, not as magic cures, but as biological support that helps the body reactivate its own defense mechanisms. Among all foods studied in modern nutritional science, one group consistently stands out for its impact on inflammation control: cruciferous vegetables. This includes broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, and similar plants. These foods contain natural compounds that do not just provide basic nutrition, but actively interact with human cellular systems. Inside broccoli, for example, there is a compound that remains inactive until the food is prepared and chewed. When the plant cells are broken, a reaction occurs that produces a powerful bioactive substance. Once inside the body, this compound does not act like a simple nutrient. It works more like a biological signal that communicates directly with cells and influences how they behave. One of the most important effects of this compound is its ability to activate a central protective pathway inside human cells. This pathway acts like a master control system that turns on a wide range of protective genes. These genes are responsible for producing antioxidant enzymes, detoxification proteins, and anti-inflammatory agents that the body creates on its own. Instead of introducing something foreign, it helps the body increase its internal defense capacity. What makes this especially important is how it affects inflammation at the source. Rather than simply reducing symptoms, it influences the cellular environment where inflammation begins. It helps shift the body from a pro-inflammatory state toward a more balanced and regulated state. This can have wide-ranging effects on long-term health, especially when combined with other healthy habits. Research has shown that this plant-based compound can also influence how certain damaged or abnormal cells behave. In controlled laboratory studies, it has been observed to interfere with processes that cancer cells rely on to grow and spread. While this does not mean it is a treatment or cure, it does show that food can have far deeper biological effects than most people assume. Another important function involves the liver, which plays a central role in filtering harmful substances from the body. This compound supports the activation of enzymes that help neutralize potential toxins before they can damage DNA. This adds another layer of protection by reducing long-term cellular stress. Even more interesting is its effect on gene regulation. Human genes are not always active all the time. Many are switched on or off depending on internal signals. This compound influences those signals in a way that helps restore the activity of protective genes that may have become less active due to chronic stress or poor diet. This is not about a single food solving everything. It is about understanding how daily nutrition can influence deep biological systems. And once this connection becomes clear, the focus shifts from treating disease after it appears to supporting the body in a way that reduces risk from the beginning. To understand why this matters in real life, we need to connect these biological effects to practical daily habits. The important point is not that one specific food performs miracles, but that consistent intake of certain plant-based compounds can gradually shift how the body functions at a cellular level. Small dietary decisions repeated over time can influence inflammation, immunity, and even long-term disease risk. When these protective plant compounds enter the body regularly, they help reduce the intensity of internal stress signals. Instead of the immune system remaining in a constant state of alert, it begins to return to a more balanced rhythm. This is crucial because chronic inflammation is not a single event, it is a continuous loop. Breaking that loop requires consistent support rather than one-time changes. One of the most practical ways to achieve this is through regular consumption of cruciferous vegetables in simple, realistic portions. These foods do not need to be exotic or expensive. They are widely available and can be included in everyday meals without major dietary changes. The key is consistency, not intensity. Even small servings on a daily basis can contribute to meaningful biological effects over time. Preparation also plays an important role in how effective these foods are. Heat, for example, can reduce some of the natural enzymes involved in activating beneficial compounds. However, this does not mean cooking should be avoided completely. Instead, it highlights the importance of balance. Light cooking methods or occasional raw consumption can help preserve more of the active components. Interestingly, even simple kitchen adjustments can make a difference. Allowing chopped vegetables to rest before cooking or combining them with other natural enzyme sources can enhance their biological impact. These small techniques do not require special equipment or advanced knowledge, yet they can significantly influence how much active compound the body receives. Beyond individual foods, overall dietary patterns matter even more. A diet that is high in processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats creates a constant inflammatory pressure inside the body. In contrast, a diet rich in whole plant foods, healthy fats, and natural nutrients helps reduce that pressure. It is the overall pattern that determines long-term outcome, not a single ingredient. Lifestyle factors must also be considered alongside nutrition. Even the most beneficial foods cannot fully counteract the effects of chronic stress, poor sleep, and inactivity. These elements interact with diet to shape the body's internal environment. When combined, they either support healing or maintain inflammation. The encouraging part is that these systems are highly responsive. The body does not remain fixed in one state permanently. When healthier inputs are consistently provided, biological pathways begin to adjust. Inflammation markers can decrease, immune balance can improve, and cellular repair processes become more efficient. This means the focus should not be on perfection, but on direction. Every small improvement in food choices and daily habits contributes to shifting the body away from chronic inflammation. And over time, these shifts can have a meaningful impact on overall health, resilience, and long-term disease risk. Once you understand how deeply inflammation is influenced by daily habits, the next question becomes simple but important. How do you actually apply this in a realistic way without overcomplicating your life? The answer is not extreme diets or short-term fixes. It is about building consistent patterns that your body can respond to over time. The first step is increasing the presence of natural whole foods in your meals, especially vegetables that support internal balance. Cruciferous vegetables are a strong example because they interact with multiple biological systems at once. They do not work in isolation. Instead, they support the body's own protective mechanisms. When included regularly, they help reduce the constant biological pressure that comes from processed food consumption. At the same time, it is important to reduce what is continuously harming the system. Highly processed foods, excessive sugar, and industrial oils keep inflammatory pathways active. They do not just add calories, they send repeated signals to the body that disrupt normal immune regulation. Over time, this creates a background level of stress that the body struggles to resolve. Hydration, sleep, and movement also play a major role in supporting recovery. Sleep, in particular, is one of the most powerful natural repair processes. During deep sleep, the body resets immune function, clears metabolic waste, and restores hormonal balance. When sleep is consistently poor, this recovery process remains incomplete, which allows inflammation to build quietly in the background. Movement is equally important because the body depends on circulation to deliver nutrients and remove waste products. Even moderate daily activity improves blood flow, supports metabolic health, and helps regulate immune responses. It does not require intense exercise. Consistency matters far more than intensity. Stress management is another critical factor that is often underestimated. Chronic stress keeps the body in a prolonged survival state, which directly influences inflammatory activity. Simple practices that reduce mental load can have measurable biological effects over time, even if they seem small on the surface. When all of these factors are combined, something important happens inside the body. The internal environment begins to shift. Instead of being constantly pushed toward inflammation, the system slowly moves toward balance. This does not happen overnight, but the biological response is continuous and cumulative. What makes this approach powerful is that it does not rely on one single change. It works through multiple small adjustments that reinforce each other. Diet, sleep, movement, and stress all interact, creating either a cycle of damage or a cycle of recovery. And this is the key idea to take forward. Health is not built through isolated actions, but through repeated daily choices that shape the body's internal environment. When those choices support balance instead of disruption, the body naturally becomes more resilient over time. This leads directly into the final perspective, where we connect everything together and focus on how one simple decision can start shifting the entire system in a healthier direction. When everything is brought together, the message becomes very clear. The human body is not a fixed machine that simply breaks down with age or fate. It is a responsive system that constantly reacts to what you give it every single day. Food, sleep, movement, stress, and environment are not separate factors. They are all inputs that shape one continuous biological outcome inside your body. Chronic inflammation, which was once thought of as a vague background process, is now understood as one of the central drivers behind many modern diseases. But what is equally important is this: it is not permanent. It is not something you are simply born with and forced to accept. It is a state that develops over time through repeated exposure to certain triggers. And because it develops gradually, it can also be influenced gradually in the opposite direction. The most powerful shift happens when awareness turns into action. Once you understand that your daily habits are either adding to internal stress or reducing it, every meal becomes more meaningful. It is no longer just about taste or convenience. It becomes a choice that either supports long-term balance or continues the cycle of imbalance. This is where simple, consistent habits become powerful. Including more natural plant-based foods, especially cruciferous vegetables, supports the body's internal protective systems. Reducing processed foods lowers the constant inflammatory load. Improving sleep allows deep cellular repair to take place. Moving your body regularly improves circulation and immune regulation. Managing stress helps prevent the body from staying in a prolonged defensive state. None of these changes need to be extreme. In fact, extreme changes rarely last. What matters most is consistency over time. Small improvements, repeated daily, create measurable biological shifts. The body responds slowly, but it does respond. Inflammation markers can reduce, energy levels can improve, and overall resilience can increase when the internal environment becomes more balanced. It is also important to understand that no single food or habit works alone. Health is created through patterns, not isolated actions. One healthy meal cannot undo years of imbalance, but hundreds of small healthy choices can gradually rebuild it. This is the part most people underestimate, and also the part that makes the biggest difference. The goal is not perfection. The goal is direction. Every step toward a cleaner, more balanced lifestyle is a step away from chronic inflammation and toward better long-term health. Even if progress feels slow, the internal changes are happening beneath the surface in ways you may not immediately notice. So instead of looking for shortcuts or miracle solutions, the focus should be on building a lifestyle that supports your body instead of constantly challenging it. Because when your internal environment changes, your long-term health trajectory changes with it. If this video helped you understand your body in a new way, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more science-based health insights, and share your thoughts in the comments about what change you are planning to start first.